Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power. And I'm so grateful that you're here today. And we are continuing the topic that we've been doing for the last few weeks on utilizing your inside power, the powers that you have that are maybe invisible to you, as in the book, Your Invisible Power by Genevieve Behrend, but they are also powers that you can utilize and learn how to create the life that you want. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today, is creating this life. You know, if you think of the story of Aladdin in the magic lamp, Aladdin rubbed that lamp and then he got wishes. And what we don't often realize is that we have the ability inside of us to have those wishes and to create them in our lives. But we so often do not, because we don't realize that we have those powers. So as I continue through this book, Your Invisible Power, on my show, Your Inside Power, I want you to realize that we do create our own reality. And whether we know it or not, or believe it or not, everything that's happened in our life, we have caused it to happen. Now, sometimes you'll say, but I didn't want that bad thing to happen. No, you did not. But because of your thought process and your habitual thinking, you actually drew it into your life. You know, we don't want the empty bank account, but yet we focus on not having enough money. And therefore we keep drawing that into our lives. Or we don't like the job we have, but we keep focusing on that job instead of thinking of the job we do want, then we keep drawing that job into our lives. So we have to realize that consciously or unconsciously, we have exactly the results that we've been thinking about, because, as I think it was William Emerson said, you become what you think about all day long. So if we become what we think about all day long, then we have the exact results that we have been thinking about. So one of the things I want to touch on today is purpose in life. You have to have a purpose in life. What is your purpose? This is something that most of us never give much thought to. We don't really know who we are. And that's a very sad thing, because if we don't know who we are, how are we going to change who we are to become who we want to be? So we never spend time really thinking about who we are. And that's really sad. We allow others, whether it be parents, whether it be friends or other relatives, spouses, children, whoever, we allow other people to define who we are. We allow others to define the jobs that we are going to have. We allow others to make our decisions for us. We allow the outside world to decide things for us instead of going inside and finding out what it is we want and who we really are. My husband and I were both musicians, and I wanted to make it really, I wanted to not impose that my children had to be musicians too. I wanted them to be who they wanted to be. Now, as it's turned out, they all did have some musical talent. And my oldest daughter became very involved in music. In fact, she was in the Marine band and played the clarinet. She played the piano. She sang. She was very musical. My second daughter, she was in a band for a while, but that wasn't her thing. She was more in dance. And even though she had musical talent, she used her musical ability to express music through dance. And my son, he had musical talent that he really developed later, because he didn't really enjoy it when he was in school. And now he plays the guitar, but he went into sports. And I allowed that to happen because it's their life. It's not my life. So I wanted them to enjoy the things they wanted to do. I wanted them to figure out who they were and to decide for themselves what they wanted to do, not follow in my footsteps. So we really need to figure out, what is our purpose? Why are we here? And that confounds a lot of people, because we don't really know what is our purpose. I remember myself, after my son, who is my youngest, went to college, and I thought, okay, so for these last 30 years, I've been raising kids, and now my youngest one's just gone to school. And I felt like that was my purpose, to raise my children and to make them productive members of society. But I'd forgotten about me. What was I supposed to do? What was my purpose now? And I remember driving back from my mom's house and just getting very angry, because I was like, what is my purpose? What is it I'm supposed to do? Because I've raised my kids, not that you ever stop being a mom, but I've raised my kids, and what am I supposed to do now? So I really think we need to spend time thinking, what am I supposed to do? And decide on that purpose. Decide what you want. Picture what you want. Develop that picture over and over and over again. And when you have that definite picture, think about it during the day. Focus on it. Now, this is another thing that people kind of slip up on. We have to use our imagination to build the picture of the reality that we want. Okay. And then we have to use our ability to focus and to hold it with the will of our mind, hold that picture and come back to it multiple times during the day. And particularly morning, when you first get up, think about it, and evening before you go to bed. So it's in that subconscious mind. And we have to think about, how did the things about first come into existence? When anything's been invented, I know I said this prior, it's been thought about first in the imagination and then physically made on the physical plane. So we need to keep that in mind. That's the way everything happens. So the next thing we need to think about is that focus. And one thing is, if you have trouble focusing, first of all, there are some oils that can help you focus, which I do recommend. And also you can start to develop that focus by looking at a dot on the wall and just keeping focused on it, or lighting a candle and focus on the flame and to become like one with the flame. And those are ways to help you to develop focus. So if that's an issue for you, which I think we live in a very distracted world, I think that's an issue with a lot of people, that's one way you can focus. But another good thing to do is to say, if you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, or any of those watches, set an alarm. And when that alarm goes off, that's a signal to you to think about your dream. And, just a few minutes, that's all you need. So those are some good ways to keep that idea in your head. Repeat some affirmations. Say what it is you want. Write your goal down. I do that every day, writing my goal down. And if you want something, start seeing yourself in the picture. It's not enough to just see. Like if you want a new house, it's not enough to just see that house. It's see you living in that house, see you entertaining in that house, see your family with you in that house, see your friends in that house, see you walking up to the door and turning the knob and you're walking into your house. See you in the morning when you wake up in bed, seeing whatever would be out the window in that new house. So you have to live in your dream. Live in your imagination. Now, there's a couple ideas that Genevieve gave to us and things to remember as you're building these new conditions in your mind. First one she says is, be sure you know what conditions you wish to produce. And sometimes that takes some time to figure it out, and you may change and adjust, and that's okay. But figure out what it is that you want. Number two, she says, by letting your thought dwell upon your mental picture, you are concentrating the creative spirit to this center. So you have to have thoughts of that picture. It's not good enough to do it once. Do it every day. Do it multiple times during the day. So you have that creative thought there and you keep seeing it and that you're living in that reality. Number three, she says, is to visualize bringing your object to mind into a state of equilibrium, which enables you to consciously direct the flow of spirit to a definitely recognized purpose, and to carefully guide your thought from including a flow in the opposite direction. So you've got to keep that thought going, meditating on it. And number 4, she says, by the action of mind, you can differentiate it into any specific mode that you will. So you can keep shifting it. Keep in mind, keep your mind fixed on the fact that the inflow of the creative energy is taking place. And also by your mental picture, you are determining the direction you wish the sensitive creative power to take. And by doing this, the externalization of your picture is a certainty. It's just like Wallace D. Wallace said, when you start to visualize this picture and you have that, it's not a matter of if, it's when. It has to happen because that's the law. Number 5, she says, is to remember when you're visualizing that there are no strenuous efforts on your thought. And that's why it's really good to have that meditative spirit and to be completely relaxed as you're picturing what it is that you want. And then number 6, she says, by holding your picture in a cheerful frame of mind, you shut out all thoughts that would disperse the spiritual nucleus of your picture. So when you focus on it, you're turning away all the doubt and all the worry and all the reasons why it can't happen. And then number 7 is to remember that in visualizing, you are making a mental picture for the purpose of determining the quality you are giving to the previous undifferentiated substance and energy, rather than to arrange the specific circumstances for the manifestation. Once you have the idea, the how is not your issue. The how is not what you worry about. You just decide what it is you want, and the how will come to you. You see, if we start to figure out every little idea and everything that has to happen in every order, then we're going, that's adding strenuous, and that's adding a strain to your picture. You have to know what it is you want, and the how will come to you. The people, the resources, everything you need will come to you. Your object is to concentrate your energy on what it is you want, and things will start to come together. And in the most mysterious way, it could be just, bumping into somebody, or it could be something you just happen to see, and it gives you an idea of what you need to do. Now, when those ideas come, act on them. You must act on them. This is where a lot of people shut down this whole idea, is because when they get an idea, they think that's all they have to do is to think about it. No, you have to act. You have to do something. You can't just sit around thinking about it. So it says, the thoughts you dwell upon become the things you possess or do not possess. You see, that's up to you, whether you possess them or not. Again, that's part of who you are and what you've been thinking about. So what I want you to realize is that you have this powerful center. Now, this is one of the most impactful paragraphs in the whole book that Genevieve writes about. And this is something that she took from Thomas Troward. Thomas Troward, if you saw that episode where I was talking about how this all got started, Thomas Troward was a philosopher, and I believe he was a judge. And Genevieve really wanted to study with him, but he didn't have time for private students. He was giving speeches. He was, doing other things, and he didn't want to take on private students. And she persisted and persisted because that was her picture. And her mind was, being a private student of Thomas Troward. And eventually she did become his student. And so what I want you to realize is that she was learning this stuff from him. And this is something that she took from Troward, and says, my mind is a center of divine operation. Your mind's a center of divine operation. You have the power inside of you to connect to the universe. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before. So that's why we're here. We are here to expand. Why do you think the world has changed? The world has changed because as human beings, we are here for growth and expansion and new ideas. And, at this point in time, things are coming so quickly. And that's the way we were designed. So your mind's the center, and it's always for expansion. That's what people want. They want to have different things and to, be more comfortable and to have things and do things and be things. That's what we're here for. So your mind's the center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something you have never done before, something entirely new, not included in the past experience. So we're looking for something we've never done before. She says here, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. In the Science of Getting Rich, Wallace D. Wallace talks about when we have something that we want. We'll use an oak tree as the example that he uses. If you thought of an oak tree, it wouldn't just magically appear. There is a time period, a gestation period for that oak tree to grow. And that's what you have to realize is that your dream, your goal has to have time to grow. And you have to be prepared. And sometimes we think we're ready for something, and then we become frustrated when it doesn't happen right away. No, there is something you're missing, and you're not aware of it because you're not in charge. That idea is out there, and the universe knows what you need. And so it may be a challenge that you have to go through. Maybe it's a challenge that you have to be maybe even hurtful to you. And you're going through it because there's a lesson in that you have to learn if you're going to be able to continue with your journey. And so it's preparing you. So everything in your past experience is preparing you for what it is that you're supposed to do. Okay, so, and it's an orderly sequence. You can't just, let's say you want to be a leader. You can't just all of a sudden, okay, I'm a leader. There's a sequence of things that you probably have to go through and understand before you're going to get people to follow you. And so you have to go through that experience. Next thing it says is, therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate in the same manner with me. If there is a gestation period, if there is a time of growth that a tree needs to go through, it can't just change because you want it to. Nature has set the boundaries. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. And that's an important part to realize too. So we are the center, and yet, even though these new conditions are there, it's always in advance of what you've gone through. So let me just read this whole thing without interrupting, okay? So it says, my mind is a center of divine operation. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something on what has gone before. Something entirely new, not included in the past experience, though proceeding out of it by an orderly sequence of growth. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, it must operate the same manner with me. Consequently, in my own special world, of which I am the center, it will move forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that have gone before. So when you have that desire in your mind, you have to realize that there's a divine operation. It's always working, whether we realize it or not, whether we're aware or not. That's why it's so important to be aware of this information, because when you're aware of how the laws of the universe work, it can make a massive difference in your attitude, in your faith, in your results, because you know if you follow the laws of the universe, if you follow those rules, it's going to happen, because it happens for everybody the same way. Nobody is taken from where they are and say, you're the special one that this is going to work for. But you are the one it's not going to work for. That's not the way the universe wants. The universe doesn't pick winners and losers. The universe just allows you to become a winner if you choose. Why don't more people do this? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to focus on it. It's much easier to see the reality in front of you, to see what's there and live through that, than to create your own reality and block out what you see that you don't want. That's easier. And that's what 95% of the people do. And so when you have this idea that you are that divine center and that these laws will work for you, it gives you that feeling of relaxation. But just with that relaxation, don't let you feel like, okay, I don't have to do anything now. There's the biggest problem most people have. They think that they're free to do nothing and it will all happen for them. No, it won't. No, it won't. You have to act on those ideas. And the universe loves it when you act quickly. So when you get an idea and they're like divinely given, because you're a divine center of operation. So when you have that idea, it is divinely given. It might be something you're like, well, I don't know where that came from. Write it down. Okay, because as soon as you get one of those ideas, maybe because it's not yours, I never thought of that, but maybe because it's not your idea, it's coming to you from the ether, write it down so that you don't forget it, and then act on it or figure out how to act on it. You know, maybe it's a name of somebody and you maybe don't know them. So then maybe you have to think about, okay, so how can I get to this person? Who do I know that might know them? Maybe it's an idea of something that you want, write it down and then start to figure out, okay, so how can I get it? Map out a plan. Keep in mind, your plan might not be the best answer, and be willing and open to altering your plan if need be. Okay. So that's where we're going to stop for today. And we'll pick it up there next week on how, to attract those things, because Genevieve talks about how she attracted money to her. And I know a lot of my clients want money, but it's not just a matter of just thinking about the money and it appears. It's a matter of doing things. It's thinking things in a certain way and doing things in a certain way that will bring the good that you want into your life. So I would love to help you. I like to focus on business people or entrepreneurs because they have a spirit inside of them, a spirit of really wanting to conquer something. And if you have that spirit of wanting to conquer something and really achieve something great in your life, I would love to have a chat with you and see what possibilities there are for us working together. There may not be any, and that's okay. We'll just have a great conversation and, just be friends. But if you have something that you're really wanting and you're not sure how to get it, let's start following the laws of the universe. And I'm going to show you ways that in the past you've already used the laws, you just didn't realize it, and how to utilize those laws in the future so that you can have the life you want and create the reality that will get you to where you want to go in life. This is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power, and I want you to be the most productive and accomplished person possible.